Hey guys, this is going to be a fun episode. Not only for you, but also for me. For the guys of you who are watching this right now, you might see a slight instability in the video. I'm sitting on the ferry from Dover to Dunkirk, coming back from England on my way home, and I thought might be a good idea to record the podcast. The problem is that there are heavy turbulences. We are wobbling around a bit. Today's episode is dedicated to the learnings of our English wine tour. It's been 3 weeks in England for me, and as usual, as soon as I see the cliffs of Dover, I feel like coming home. And I have so many friends over there right now, and it's always a pleasure. It's always so nice to come back to England. So, what did I do? I started on October 25th, and I wanted to harvest with George's Vineyard, and he called me at 7 a.m. and said, "Sorry, Alex, the birds were faster. We had to harvest overnight, and fortunately, we can't harvest together." So I postponed this one to next year, went down to Sandwich Barton to help them a bit, and this worked very well on Monday. Processed grapes, had an interesting evening together, and on Tuesday I wasn't able to move my leg anymore. So unfortunately, I spent 5 days at Sandwich Barton just hanging around, getting on people's nerves, trying to get fit again. And I found a really good osteopath in the area. For 4 days after Sandwich, I went down to Guillaume Laguerre. We discoursed some cider together, blended some base wines for traditional sparkling wine. I keep you posted on that. And from Thursday to Sunday, we had our official tour. And I call it the committal wine tour because we went through all the shires. We started in Oxfordshire, then we went over to Herefordshire, Monmouthshire in Wales, Gloucestershire. On the last day, on our way back to London, we visited a winery in Hampshire. So it was the Shires trip. And there were so many interesting stories. We met amazing people. And I just wanted to share my learnings, our learnings, the learnings of the group with you. There might be some interesting stuff if you're interested in the industry, in the region, or if you are working or interested in wine, because I think there are so many things we can just adapt or be inspired by and use it for our company, for our famous brand, whatever what suits our, what drives our interest in wine. And this is wrapped up in this episode number 209. And I will end the episode with the challenges they have to face as well in England, especially caused by Brexit, so that you get a balanced feeling of what is currently going on in the English wine industry. Have fun. Welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 200. Today's episode is dedicated to the learnings of our wine tour, of our wine trip to England. And we visited 7 wineries all over the country. We started with a trip from Heathrow, where usually I set the pickup point, stopped by 2 wineries in Oxfordshire. Then we went over to the area of Bristol, Herefordshire, Gloucestershire on the second day. Third day was dedicated to Wales, Monmouthshire. And on our way back, this was the first plate. And on our way back on Sunday, we had a stop at a winery in Hampshire. And some things they all had in common, and some things were quite different from winery to winery. But I thought, let's wrap up what could be useful for you as a winery or as a visitor of this beautiful country, this beautiful wine country. They make so many things right. They make so many things different. And of course, this story I'm going to tell and the use cases I'm going to present you, they are not representative for the whole country. I don't know how many wineries you have visited in your life. It's always very subjective, of course, and very individual. Nevertheless, I think there might be some blueprints you could use for your winery, for your business, and for your brand. When you come to England and you have been high involved in wine, you have been working in wine for 30, 40 years, England might feel like Germany in the 70s and 80s. Especially the wines on the varieties of the 70s, like Bacchus, like Ortega, Reichensteiner, Huxelrebe, they are quite popular at the moment in England because they are well suited for the cooler climate. This is something that is different to the continental Europe. England's climate is more comparable to the climate of the 70s, 80s, probably the 90s in continental Europe. And usually when people talk about English sparkling wine, they say, yes, it's the soil and the climate of Champagne, but from the 70s and 80s. Due to climate change, it's more like 90s and early 2000s when it comes to the climate of Champagne. Nevertheless, there are some parallels, and in my opinion, it's not only the varieties and even the wine styles, because of course low in alcohol, fresher, more fruit driven. It is also the feeling and the behavior of the people. And especially when I think about some friends whose wineries have been there in the 60s, 70s, and in central Germany, for example, Tommy Neumeister in Franken, the things they started to do in the 70s are the things that people and winemakers are focused on in England right now. And we will talk about all of this. And I would like to start with the things that, let's call them hard skills, they are focused on with their wineries. I would say when it comes to guided tours on wineries, there are 3, 4 things that really stand out. The first thing is the focus on regionality. They talk about the region, they talk about the history, they talk about the domestic market, they talk about what relates with them, with the company in the area, with businesses there and located in the area. And they usually have a really interesting and well-developed way of storytelling because they figured out, or at least they think it is interesting or it is important to tell a story. And guess what? They are right. It's not this standard wine tour, this wine tastes like this and that, and it's 63% stainless steel. I mean, if you ask for it, they usually have the answer, but it's more like this estate has been founded in. The vineyard was planted in the 1980s, one of the first vineyards in England, and our estate is a family business and has been since 1520, for example, was the oldest story I heard at Whittle. And they really know how to tell a story, and the combination of the regionality, especially based on corporations with local businesses, is the second big thing. So it's not only talking history, it's also finding your best or just suitable cooperations with local businesses, with gastronomy, with hotels, with other businesses, for example, that you can offer wine and cheese tastings or chocolate and wine tours, stuff like that. With the idea of farm to fork, which is quite popular in England, they managed to offer really good wine and dine experiences. I guess almost every winery we visited offered not only guided tours, but also tastings, special dinners, winemakers dinner, Christmas dinner, and also with their public holidays, the connection. They know what they're doing, especially when it comes to events. And when it comes to the difference to, for example, Germany, Austria, or Napa Valley, and these were just the things I discovered and I experienced this year, the price point is pretty damn good. Germany offers great wine tours. Austria offers great wine tours. England as well. And Napa as well. The problem is, in Germany, it's usually wine tasting. Sometimes there are guided tours, but usually it's tasting wine for free, getting drunk, and then not buying anything at all. Or maybe, usually, sometimes people buy wine, but winemakers and vintners are afraid of charging people for their tours. And if it's just a wine tasting, okay, you can say it's just marketing. But if you tell a story, if you have a guided tour in the vineyard, please charge money for that. It's your time, it's valuable time, and human beings want to pay for experiences. There is even more value dedicated to something if you put a price tag on it. Seriously. And in Napa Valley, they manage this very well. The problem is sometimes it's just too expensive for normal people. You have to save money for half a month to go on a wine taste or a wine tour in Napa Valley. It's $100 and more. And in England, it's usually between, let's say, 25 and 40 quid. And for 2 hours for storytelling, tasting the wines and getting closer to the company, the winery, and even having the feeling of a connection to this special business, to this brand, was absolutely amazing. And with the price tag of 25 to 40 quid, more than affordable, in my opinion. Farm to Fork, as I said, is quite big, and this is also a door opener for some wineries to get into restaurants and be listed on wine lists. And I'm not only talking about the local pubs or so, this is even more difficult, but many of them are aiming towards wine lists in high class restaurants. It doesn't have to be Michelin star restaurants, but of course, it's also good if you have your story during the wine tour and say, yeah, well, we are listed in these two Michelin star restaurants. And the connection with the sommeliers is very important. And there has been a steady growth of interest in English wine in the domestic markets. It's still quite small because they have the price point. It's not cheap to buy English wine. We'll talk about that in a second, the challenges. Nevertheless, they manage to do very well when it comes to being listed in restaurants, and usually this works through corporations. People talk with each other, sommeliers talk with each other, and it really works out for the wineries. Another focus that is quite interesting is, and of course, sometimes it's just storytelling, but they are focused on premium wine, on premium products. When you hear the story that they really want to get the best out of the vineyard, if you think they're lying, just ask 2 or 3 questions and you usually can find out if it's mass production, but the story of premium. And guys, just setting a higher price tag is not premium. You have to deliver the quality. And what I liked at almost all wineries we visited, they understand that a quality product in the vineyard is the base for everything. So creating an environment that gives you healthy grapes, high quality grapes, and trying to retain that quality in the wine cellar is the base of almost every winery we visited. Of course, it doesn't account for every winery in England, but I feel that the average quality level is quite high. I said that already, I don't know, 3, 4 times. I'd like to compare England with Alto Adige, with South Tyrol, because there it is quite similar. Of course, you can find crappy stuff there as well, but the average quality, the approach is on higher quality premium. And when we talk about premium, it's not 50, 60, 70 quid a bottle. It's more like 20 plus when it comes to the price tags on English wine. It's a bit more difficult to compare that, but just have a look at Alto Adige. I would say 13, 14 euros could be considered as premium over there. And in England, sometimes the prices are too high for the quality in the bottle. But if you have experience with tastings, you will figure that out quite fast. So this focus on premium products is, I would say, the base, and many of the wineries are really interested in growing good grapes, healthy grapes. I've only seen one winery in 4 years in England that was really focused on mass production, talking quality. The products were really good, very well made, polished, but when you know the quality of the grapes that is getting into the bottle, you might not be interested in that. No names, just telling you be aware during tastings and ask questions. How do you retain quality in the vineyard? How do you work in the winery? How many grapes do you have per vine? Stuff like that. What do you spray in the vineyard? And England has a difficult climate. Sometimes they have to spray. Talking about sustainability and the approach, there are many wineries that have a real focus on sustainability, and it's not greenwashing. They tell you that they have to work with fungicides every now and then to save the vineyard. It's more about the stability of economical, biological, and people's sustainability stuff. And this is what I really like, and this is an approach that many wineries had, and this is also something where I can recommend you the podcast episode 205 with Charlie Brown from Sandwich Bottom, because in my opinion, this is the blueprint for everything I'm currently talking about. Wine tourism is the next big thing. In my opinion, England, wine tourism at its best. Almost every winery offers wine tours several times a week, sometimes 2 times a day, fixed dates, flexible dates. They publish everything on social media. They're quite active over there. Not only advertisement, but storytelling, giving you the feeling of being part of the journey in the vineyard and in the wine cellar. Many wineries offer wine and food pairings with local gastronomy, farm to fork stories. Born in the late 70s in Germany is quite difficult at the moment because, especially in Germany and Central Europe, when people buy something online, it doesn't matter if it's an agricultural product or not, they want safety. So when they adopt the wine, one wine for, I don't know, 50 quid a year, and it's said to be one bottle per vine, they want to have a bottle of wine. And if it was a crappy year and the winery is not able to produce enough wine to serve every contract, the wineries struggle to keep the customers, and sometimes customers not only run away but also leave bad comments because they don't get what agriculture really means. And we had a chat with 2 or 3 winemakers that really try to communicate this to their adopt the vine customers, saying, you have this contract, come over, help us with harvesting. You get a special guided tour where we explain everything that is done in the vineyard and in the wine cellar, that you get a feeling of how much work is going into this product and what quality really means. You're part of the harvest, you get your personal bottle, and when you as a customer have the ability to be part of the whole journey throughout the year, you get a feeling how much work it is, how high the costs are, and what nature really means to wine production. And in the end, you might not get your 50 bottles of wine, but maybe 35. And maybe it's not your favorite variety, but a blend of it, because the winery just struggled. This is a very important part. And for example, Woodchester Valley, it was so interesting to be part of their guided tour through the vineyard because they were really explaining how much work it is to prune a wine, to cut off the tops, to do green harvesting, how to get the high quality grapes, what it really means to have a low amount of bunches per vine compared to the big players, and why a bottle of wine is 20 quid instead of 6 or 7 when it comes to Barefoot or Yellowtail in the supermarket. And the people that joined the tour with us were probably between 55 and 70. And in the beginning, it was quite funny for me because they were all wearing Wellingtons, so gummy boots. And this is super fun because it really felt like they have it in the trunk anyway. And they just put it out. And I talked to a very nice lady, and she said, yeah, we're used to it. We're from England. We always have them in our boot. And if we have a guided tour just going on a walk, our Wellingtons are ready to go. And they were so interested in the story, how to grow wine, and they didn't even know what it means to have high quality, even though they already had the willingness to pay more for a bottle. And this is something, in my opinion, we should do so much more in schools, talking about the effort that is going into agricultural products to give people a feeling of quality and the difference between mass production and really dedicated, small, high quality producers. And that the price tag is not only money you're giving away, but also quality and maybe even lifetime you get back. Adopt the Vine is one program to bring customers to your winery. They also offer harvest workshops, viticulture workshops, where you can just be part of the process. And I only know very few wineries offering that in Central Europe, but in my opinion, this is something where you can get really a deeper connection to your customers. So just to sum this up, these, let's call them hard skills when it comes to marketing, to event management, are the base of the success of many English wineries. And it feels like it's been the same in the 70s and 80s in Germany, for example. Maybe we got too lazy because there's just too much wine and we are comfortable with selling what we're currently having. In my opinion, this is a fault. The connection to the people, focusing on experiences, will be the future and will be one of the most important things in the next years. Because in my opinion, the quality has to go up. The focus on premium, on experience has to grow because people are drinking less, and it will turn out to be an industry with basically 2 layers: the very cheap, crappy stuff because people just want to drink alcohol, and the more premium side where people know that this is quality. So many companies that are, let's say, having products in the mid-range, they will struggle. So you have to push towards storytelling, experiences, and higher quality in the future, my personal opinion. When you talk to some wineries in England, due to all these facts we were just talking about, they managed to be even in a position where they can allocate their wines. Some of the wineries only produce 2, 3, 4, 5,000 bottles, and when they manage to get on wine lists in high-class restaurants, they usually have to work with allocation, at least with their high quality, with their premium products. And of course, this is luxury. Nevertheless, it's hard work. It's hard work to get there. And of course, there's also some luck involved every now and then, or maybe your network you brought from your former life, from your former employer. This really stood out to me that I would say 40% of the wineries we visited were working with allocations. And if you do all the things we just talked about, there might be a possibility for you as well. Of course, the English market is not saturated compared to the markets in France and Germany, for example, but there are always possibilities to take your USP and position it in the market. The second part that, in my opinion, really plays a big role in the success of English wineries are the soft skills of the people. And I would point out 3 to 4 that really stood out for me personally and that are, in my opinion, a huge driver for the success of the wineries. First of all, there's intuition and creativity involved. Sometimes it's just because they have to do it like this, because the staff is just 2 or 3 people and that they have to do basically everything in the winery. And due to the fact that they can't afford paying an agency for labels, for marketing, for flyers, they are hands on. And sometimes it really turns out that intuition works, and paired with the creativity of the people, there are really high quality results coming out of it. Just popping up in my mind, Polton Hill Estate in Hertfordshire, tasty products, hands on marketing, branding on point, and the product range was not only wines and tastings and tours and events, there were also bottle openers, bags, wooden cases, candles, and so many other things that are just showing high quality and accounting on the experience and gifts and stuff like that, or talking about other ideas. Black Chalk gifted us bottle closure for sparkling wines, and these are the small things that people keep in mind. So creativity and intuition is one of the biggest skills, in my opinion, that the people over there are having. The next thing is flexibility. They have fixed dates for their tours. They have fixed days for their tours and hours. And due to our very, very tight schedule, sometimes we weren't able to manage every tour that was published online. So I texted them, and usually they reply within 24 hours saying, "Yeah, Alex, no problem. We will arrange that, and we can give you a special guided tour, a bit shorter, but on point." And this is what I really liked. And in addition, if I always gave them a call if we were 10, 15 minutes late, because I'm German, and they were super flexible. And due to a planning error in my schedule, my personal schedule with the wineries, I had to postpone one tasting by 1 hour. And I called them and said, "Sorry, my fault. I wasn't able to manage 2 p.m. I will pay for everything that occurred. No problems. Costs are on my head. But can we make it possible to come and see you?" And they said, "Of course. Join the tasting at 3. And at 4, we give you a special small guided tour. There's your group." Absolutely amazing. This is flexibility. This is hospitality, and sometimes it's even unreasonable hospitality to give you the quote of, in my opinion, one of the most powerful programs on the planet created by Will Guidara. Unreasonable hospitality. Look out for his book. Unpaid advertisement. Last but not least, the biggest thing for me is dedication. Every single person we met transported or gave us the feeling that they are all in what they're doing. We're talking about farmers that started their own vineyard. We were people that quitted their job because they weren't happy anymore, planted the vineyard, and started doing what they wanted to do. They hired consultants if they didn't have the skills. They went to Plumpton College if they wanted to earn the skills, and you can feel this dedication. when they talk about their products, they are so all in, so convinced, not convincing, convinced that it really is a pull into the brand, and you immediately can correlate with them. And this is one of the biggest things for me. So if you want that people are convinced of your products, be convinced of your story, be convinced of your product. Don't try to tell people crappy marketing stuff. Ask ChatGPT if you want to have that. It's quite easy and faster. Try to tell your story. Try to focus on your USP, on your positioning. Give them the feeling that they are special, that this experience was just created for them. And then you will have a very, very big chance to be more successful with your winery and to be more happy with what you're doing. This is what it should be all about, right? And right now, if you have the feeling that it's just all roses and lovely in the market, it's not. Brexit gave the English wine industry a big hit. The prices went up. We talked about the tax and duty fees. And just to give you a feeling, when you see a bottle of £6, 7.50, €7.50, $8 on the shelf in England, almost half of it are duties and 20% of that are taxes. So in the end, a 250 bottle costs £6 on the shelf. And this is why quality is probably 15 and above when we talk about international products, and 25 to 30 when it comes to local products in England. It's just more expensive to produce quality in the country. They have to import almost everything, and these are the main drivers for English wine. The quality that is behind is really worth it. And I mean, my credo is drink less but better. And if you are in England, you have no chance because the quality is really good. The prices are quite high. So if you want to have a really, really good sparkling wine, you have to pay 40 quid, but it's worth it, guys. It's really worth it. And if you stop drinking crappy stuff, the yellowtail, barefoot stuff that is in the market, I mean, it is there for a reason because many people love to drink that. But if you want to drink less but better, the focus on quality is one of the solutions. Another thing is that many wineries in England are producing very, very small amounts. So it is really hard to export anything for them, not only due to the prices and duty fees, but also, let's say, a restaurant or an importer in Norway or in Scandinavia in general, because it's quite booming at the moment, is interested in English products and they want to have a palette of wines. For some wineries, that means they have to export 20% of their products. And if this is a huge success in the country, for example, Norway, they have to import more, but there are no bottles available anymore. And then it comes to allocation, which is almost difficult. It's luxury, but it's difficult in the domestic market. And imagine that with 2, 3, 4 international markets. So at least you need the quantity to be able to export. In addition, Brexit also had an influence on that, on the costs, on the shipping costs, on the duty fees. You have to add up on every bottle that is imported in your country from England or the UK in general. The English wineries, the UK wineries struggle still selling their products in the domestic market, especially when it comes to special retailers or even supermarkets. It's not only the price point, it's also because people are so focused on the cheaper stuff, on the brands they know, Barefoot, McGiggle, Yellowtail, and the price point is playing even a bigger role since Brexit, since COVID, the inflation hit, and people are very, very price sensitive, not only in the British market, but especially there. And this is even more difficult for domestic wineries to enter the market. So to sum this up, there are many, many hard and soft skills you could use to grow your potential, to be more successful with a brand, not only in England, I would say suitable for almost every wine country in the world. Challenges will always occur, but if you are happy and if you have fun with facing them, and it's more about the process, not being successful and just not being interested anymore in anything what you're doing, this is the thing. Learn from your failures, accept the challenges, go all in, and have fun with what you're doing. This is it, guys. Thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, recommend this podcast to a friend or a colleague. Leave me a comment if you like. See you on Saturday with the weekly update. Ciao, ciao.